Ever wondered how something unseen can have a profound impact on your life? Let's talk about a common, yet often misunderstood phenomenon that affects countless individuals worldwide: anxiety. Picture it as an elusive adversary lurking in the shadows of our minds. It's not something you can touch or see, but its presence can be felt in every fiber of your being. Anxiety manifests itself through a range of symptoms. It might be that sense of unease, that knot in your stomach or your heart pounding like a drum. It's those sleepless nights spent worrying over things that haven't happened yet. This invisible enemy can sabotage our daily lives, creating barriers where there shouldn't be any, making simple tasks seem like insurmountable challenges. Anxiety might be invisible, but its effects are very real. But what if you could take control? Stay tuned as we delve deeper into this topic and explore ways to master your anxiety. Before we can master anxiety, we need to understand it better. Anxiety, in its most basic form, is our body's natural response to stress. It's a feeling of fear or apprehension about what's to come. Whether it's a job interview, a major exam, or even a first date, it's normal to feel a bit anxious in such situations. However, when this feeling of anxiety becomes a constant companion, it morphs into a disorder, making one's everyday life a constant struggle. Let's delve deeper. Anxiety disorders come in various forms. There's generalized anxiety disorder, characterized by persistent, excessive worry about everyday situations. It's like a faulty car alarm that goes off at the slightest touch. Then there's social anxiety, where the fear of being judged or embarrassed in social situations can be overwhelming. Imagine feeling like you're constantly under a microscope, scrutinized for every word you utter or move you make. Other forms include panic disorder, where you experience recurrent, unexpected panic attacks and specific phobias, where you have an intense, irrational fear of a specific object or situation. There's also separation anxiety, where the fear of being away from home or loved ones can be debilitating. So, what's happening inside our bodies when we feel anxious? Our brain sends a message to our body to prepare for a perceived threat, triggering a series of reactions. Our heart rate increases, our breathing becomes more rapid, and our senses become sharper. This is the fight or flight response, an evolutionary survival mechanism. But when this response is triggered too frequently or too intensely, it can take a toll on our mental and physical health. It's important to remember that anxiety is not a sign of weakness or a character flaw. It's a complex condition that arises from a combination of factors including genetics, brain chemistry, personality, and life events. With understanding comes the power to change. Now that we know what we're dealing with, let's discuss how to combat it. The ancient philosophy of Stoicism offers a unique approach to mastering anxiety. Let's embark on a journey back in time to ancient Greece and Rome, where Stoicism was born. Stoicism is a school of philosophy that teaches the development of self-control and fortitude as a means of overcoming destructive emotions. The Stoics believed that by understanding the natural laws of the universe, we can attain true peace of mind and heart. Now, how do Stoicism relate to anxiety, you may ask? Well, Stoicism teaches us that we cannot control everything that happens to us. We can only control how we respond. This principle is central to mastering anxiety. Anxiety often stems from our fear of the unknown and our desire to control every aspect of our lives. But life, as we all know, is unpredictable. Stoics, like Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, teach us that we should focus our energy not on worrying about things we cannot control, but rather on how we react to them. It's about understanding that our power lies in our response, not in the event itself. Stoicism also encourages us to live in the present moment. Anxiety often arises when we dwell on past regrets or worry about future uncertainties. Stoics argue that the present moment is all we truly have. By focusing on the here and now, we can alleviate much of our anxiety. Finally, Stoicism promotes the practice of negative visualization. This is not about being pessimistic, but rather about imagining worst-case scenarios to lessen the fear associated with them. By doing so, we can better prepare ourselves for any outcome, reducing our anxiety in the process. These Stoic principles, when applied, can equip us with a different perspective to view our anxiety not as a crippling condition, but as a manageable part of life. They help us to reframe our mindset, shifting our focus from the uncontrollable to the controllable, from the future and the past to the present, and from the fear of the worst to acceptance and readiness for any outcome. Stoicism empowers us to control our responses to the world around us, including our anxiety. Knowing the theory is one thing, but how do we put it into practice? Well, here's where the rubber meets the road. Let's explore some practical steps inspired by Stoicism that you can incorporate into your daily life to manage and overcome anxiety. First and foremost, practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is the ability to pay full attention to the present moment, and it's a core principle of Stoicism. It's about observing your thoughts and feelings without judgment. So whenever you feel anxious, instead of trying to push these feelings away, acknowledge them. Say to yourself, I'm feeling anxious right now, and that's okay. This simple act of acknowledgement can take the sting out of anxiety. Next, you need to develop a habit of questioning your thoughts. Stoics believed that it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our interpretation of these events. So every time you're feeling anxious, ask yourself, is this thought based on facts or is it just my interpretation? More often than not, you'll find that your anxiety is based on assumptions rather than reality. The third step is to practice negative visualization. This is a technique where you imagine the worst possible outcome. Now, this might sound counterintuitive, but stick with me. The idea is that by facing your fears head-on, you rob them of their power. Imagine the worst-case scenario, then ask yourself, what would I do if this were to happen? This exercise will help you realize that you're more capable of handling adversity than you think. The fourth step is to practice voluntary discomfort. This is about willingly putting yourself in uncomfortable situations to toughen up. This could be as simple as taking a cold shower in the morning or skipping your favorite dessert. The purpose is to train yourself to be okay with discomfort, which in turn can help you handle anxiety better. The fifth and final step is to make time for reflection. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Did you handle your anxiety well? What could you have done better? This reflection will help you learn from your experiences and improve over time. Incorporating these practices into your daily life won't make your anxiety disappear overnight. It's a process that requires persistence and patience. But remember, the goal isn't to eliminate anxiety completely. That's not realistic. The goal is to learn how to manage it effectively so that it doesn't control you. Let's pause for a moment to reflect on what we've learned today. We began this conversation by unveiling the invisible enemy, anxiety. We discovered that anxiety is not just a fleeting feeling, but a complex emotional response that can significantly affect our lives. It's an enemy that lives within us, often undetected, yet it can dictate our actions and thoughts in profound ways. We then took a closer look at anxiety, exploring its intricacies. We learned that it's a multifaceted phenomenon with both physical and psychological dimensions. It can manifest in a plethora of ways, from a racing heart and sweaty palms to an overwhelming sense of dread. But despite its daunting nature, we also acknowledged that it's a common part of the human experience, something that connects us all. As we delved deeper, we discovered the Stoic approach to mastering anxiety. Stoicism, an ancient philosophy, teaches us that while we may not have control over external events, we indeed have the power to control our responses. We learned that the key to mastering anxiety is not to eliminate it, but to understand it, accept it, and manage our reactions to it. We then transitioned into practical steps to master anxiety. We discussed strategies like cognitive reframing, practicing mindfulness, and developing a robust support network. These are not quick fixes, but are sustainable practices that require commitment and patience. But perhaps the most significant takeaway from our discussion today is this: mastering anxiety is an ongoing journey, not a destination. It's about learning to navigate the turbulent waters with grace, resilience, and courage. It's about acknowledging our vulnerabilities, but not allowing them to define you. So as we conclude, remember that anxiety is part of the human experience, but it doesn't have to rule your life. The power to master your anxiety lies within you. You have the ability to understand it, accept it, and manage it effectively. Embrace the journey and embrace the change. Until next time, stay strong and stay stoic.